Well, on Wednesday, Joe Biden and President-elect Trump will meet at the White House to mark the start of the transfer of power.
As Trump returns to the Oval Office, the focus is now on who will be joining him in his cabinet. Our next guest says she'd be honored, quote, honored to serve if asked.
Trump transition team co-chair Tulsi Gabbard joins us now. I want to ask you, how will you serve? I know you're not going to answer me, so I guess I want to. I guess I'm going to ask just a general question. It's very clear from the statement that Donald Trump put out on Truth Social yesterday, where he said, "I'm not going to have." Who was it?
Nikki Haley.
Nikki Haley. I'm sorry, Nikki Haley and Pompeo. Thank you very much. Long show, and then he put that out, which is not very traditional. And there seems to be like a battle inside, like whose ideological views are going to show up in this administration. Tell me what the criterias are that you're seeing on the transition team, how you're processing people's names and resumes through, and also just how important is loyalty in this? People who have stood by the president for a long time, through thick and thin.
You know, yeah, sure. You know, President Trump is obviously going through and making these decisions very carefully. What we saw on election night was this very, very clear mandate coming from the American people, this overwhelming victory that was a resounding rejection of the neocon warmongers who like to see our country in a constant state of war, who support feeding the military-industrial complex. It was a resounding rejection of the Washington establishment that puts their own power over the interests of the people. So President Trump is coming into this with the majority of the American people standing alongside him. And those who he is bringing with him into this administration, I can assure you, will be people who are committed to executing his vision, his promise to the American people. So, you know, a lot of people talk about loyalty and how important loyalty is. Yes, well, it's loyalty to the American people, making sure that the policies that President Trump has outlined throughout his campaign, that his administration will execute, will always be made within that context that he has talked about since 2016, is putting the interests of the American people first. Yeah, America first.
You know, Tulsi, before you became a Republican in the course of this race, have been a longtime supporter of Donald Trump throughout. Yep, you used to be a Democrat, and Nancy Pelosi and others have been trying to point fingers at each other, right? Rather than realize that they've lost touch with the American people, you've got Nancy Pelosi, you've got other Democrats saying, well, we are the party of the working class. They're playing the blame game. Can they learn anything? You understand that mindset, although you completely rejected it. Can they learn?
It's a very good question. You know, when President Trump won in 2016, I remember going back to Washington thinking like, oh, okay, maybe the leaders of the Democrat Party are going to have a moment of introspection and ask themselves like, okay, what are we getting wrong? Because the American people clearly rejected the Democrat leadership of Hillary Clinton and chose Donald Trump. It didn't happen then. It has not happened since. And as you can see here, it's not happening now. It's very revealing in how they're reacting to President Trump's win of the popular vote, win of the electoral vote, in that they still think we, the American people, are stupid. They still think we are garbage. And we can see this by them calling us that, essentially, calling those of us who supported President Trump and who voted for him as you know, well, we're Nazis, we're racist, we're sexist, we're bigots. Still, after the election, they're doing this. And then you see how little they think of our democracy when you see people like Governor Gavin Newsom and other Democrat governors saying, well, we have to Trump-proof our states to protect their states from the duly elected president of the United States. They do not believe in democracy. As much as they say they're the defenders of democracy, their very actions say, no, 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 they don't believe in democracy. They don't believe in the voices of the people carrying the day through our elections. They believe in their own power, their own radical agenda that Kamala Harris showed over the last 4 years has been disastrous for the American people, both here in domestic policy as well as their foreign policy.
Well, Tulsi Gabbard, thanks for being with us this morning. There's been a lot of conversation, which you know the relationships behind the scenes on who is going to be saddled with the blame for what just went down. But thanks for your time, Tulsi.
Great to see you.
Thanks, Tulsi.
Have a great day.
You too.
I'm Steve Doocy.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.